Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cigars and Everything Else podcast. My name is Jared, and in this week's episode, we'll be discussing the most influential athletes in sports and how they impacted the culture. Now, with that being said, the cigars we'll be highlighting this week will be Liga, Privada, and Rocky Patel. Now, I'm not going to hold you. We're going to go ahead and dive right into the conversation. All right, everybody, welcome to the Cigars and Everything Else podcast. My name is Jared. I'm with my co-host, Denzel.
Yes,
And
sir.
we're going to get into some cigar talk today and a little bit of everything else also to go along with that. Now, with that being said, today I'm going to be smoking on a Rocky Patel 1992, vintage 1992.
Oh, so you got something you can
man,
pronounce.
I can pronounce that. Okay, so Rocky Patel, Vintage,
Now you got to mess it up.
Noventa.
Go ahead, throw us off.
Yeah.
Go ahead, throw us off. Yeah, I'm about to say, like,
Yeah.
man, we know what you're talking about on this one.
I blew it this week, but look, my intention was to get a 1990. My humidor at the spot I go to, they were looking a little skim out there. I had a tough time finding anything. I settled on a 92. It's supposed to be a pretty good cigar, though. So we're gonna get into that today.
All right.
What you smoking on?
I have a Liga Privada number 9.
Oh,
I can pronounce mine. It's got a little tongue twister. That's all. A little tongue tied. Liga Privada, like I spoke about last time in the last podcast, last episode, is I kind of want to start going back down that journey of discovering my favorite cigars again. You know, figuring out again what's in my new top 5.
Right.
And Liga held one of those positions. It was the T52 actually, which was one of the ones that I held in high regard. It was one of my top go-tos for a while. Didn't have a T52 in the humidor, but they had a number 9. Number 9 was kind of comparable to me. So I figured, hey, let's go with it. Let's travel down that path with Liga again and see if it holds that same spark that it had before.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned, I hadn't had one in a while, but that's a solid brand. I like them.
Yeah, solid,
like
solid, man.
I don't think I can't recall anything I've had from them that I didn't like. So
yeah. Got us a fresh one. Go ahead and go with the straight cut. You know, keeping it classic.
I went straight today.
Straight cut today.
I'm on my journe. I guess. Did I have straight before? I'm still on my journey, right?
I think this might be your first straight cut since we've been since we re-upped on the podcast. I think we went with the punch before, went with the V cut, and now you back on the straight. That's I
mean, it's in rotation now.
Yeah, we rotate.
Going to a punch next week.
I guess I'm gonna have to switch it around too. You know what I'm saying? Give myself another cut, another look at this cigar.
Yeah, man. Stop dragging. Stop being repetitive.
Got to switch it up, so right. All right, man. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it, man. No need to belabor everything and just keep it. You know what I'm saying? Keeping the topics off. We're gonna jump into everything else. We talk about the cigars, now let's get into everything else. So I was having a conversation over the last weekend with my brothers, and we were discussing sports, having sort of a sports discussion, and trying to figure out who was the most influential sports figure in our modern era. In modern era, I'm meaning now, this decade, 2000s, 2010s, 2000s, and the 90s, and even going back to the 80s. So, who, in your opinion, would you hold as one of the most or the most influential sports figures? Let's not even stick with any one particular sport. Let's look at football. Let's look at basketball. We can talk about Michael Jordan. We can talk about AI. Throw some names at you. Kobe Bryant. Shaquille O'Neal.
Thinking about
Deion Sanders.
See, you almost have to break it down sport by sport because it's almost unfair to other sports to compare them to basketball when it comes in terms of influence, because basketball culture is a little different from the other sports. Like football culture is big, but then it's even bigger in college. But
Mm-hmm.
the helmets kind of prevent them from having a face, which prevents them from sometimes having the brand that a
Okay.
basketball player has. So it seems to me, from my point of view, that basketball players out of all the sports tend to end up having the biggest brands
Yeah, they have
amongst
more of an
athletes.
advantage.
Yeah,
Right.
they have a face out there.
Well,
Now,
so I would even use that to pause you for a second to say that that would probably be a nod to somebody who does have an influence. I'll throw a name at you, Deion Sanders.
right.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
Dion was Showtime, and on top of that, Dion was a professional athlete in more than one sport, which
True.
was a big part of his influence. Then you have like your Bo Jackson, who falls in that same line of athlete. And Bo had his shoes. Bo had his
True.
video games. You know what I'm saying?
Bo knows
Bo
all the
knows.
commercials. Yeah.
Big time commercials. So I don't want to just make it about old athletes, but I mean they got to run different from some of the athletes
No, I
today.
mean,
You
no,
know what I'm
no.
saying?
We're gonna take that walk in the journey, and we're gonna talk about those athletes in the '80s, '90s, 2000s, 2010s, and the 2020s.
Okay. So let's walk it then. Let's walk it. Let's go back to now we 80s babies. So with that being said, I'm not gonna get into 60s and 70s players and stuff like that. I can only start in the 80s. You know what I'm
In the
saying? And
'80s, yeah,
even the 80s is from very faded memories and
right,
doing some research on some stuff. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But so this is mostly gonna be from the perspective of someone who clearly remembers the 90s and vaguely remembers parts of the 80s. But I'm gonna throw one at you. It's gonna surprise you. Let's
Mhm.
start with Gretzky. I'm gonna go with
Okay,
Gretzky.
okay.
Gretzky was the Jordan of the ice. You know what I'm saying?
He was.
He was Jordan of ice. That's why we all know him. Even if you weren't a hockey fan, you knew him and
Yeah,
you
you can
played
say
his video
Gretzky.
game.
Yeah, you can say Gretzky. Everybody know who Gretzky is and
Yeah,
what Gretzky did.
right. So I'm gonna go with Gretzky first and foremost. Um, man, I want to put Bo over prime time. I want to put Bo over prime time, to be honest with
Really?
you, even though, yeah, but I was a bigger fan of Dion, but
You think he had more of an impact on culture? You think he had more of an impact
yeah,
on like being
yeah.
influential to the people over Deion Sanders?
If we talking to people, maybe not, but over culture, it culture is bigger than the people because at a point, culture becomes mainstream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
See, now I
Bo
know
was more mainstream.
I'm making this difficult on you because not to we didn't actually clarify what I mean by influential. And even in
Mhm.
that, I do want to talk about the whole gamut, like the whole spectrum of influential to your particular culture, influential to your particular sport, how you change the game, you know,
Yeah,
how people view you, not just in what you did as far as putting up numbers or what kind of contracts you garnered. I'm talking about the whole how you influence business. So we're
yeah,
going
and
deep. We're going to dig deep into this.
that's why I have to go with Bo over prime. But Deion Sanders is on a street level more influential, maybe to
Hmm.
little kids that was playing the game during that time
Right.
because of the flash and everything. You wanted to play like Deion. You wanted to be prime time,
Facts.
but
Facts.
Bo just went further, man. It's
He went
on a
further.
mainstream level. You know what I'm saying?
So now we're talking. This is '80s,
Yeah,
second in the '80s. So
and some
'80s, you would
'90s.
say, and linking into the '90s. I mean, Dion more so '90s than
Yeah,
'80s,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course. But Bo, yeah, most definitely more '80s. Um, so kind of like I said, we're walking this path, trying to figure this out. So you're gonna say Bo over Dion,
Yeah, but not personally. Just
not
stepping
personally.
my personal feelings aside, because I
Hmm.
take Dion over all them. You know
Overall,
what I'm saying?
right,
Yeah,
right, right. But you understand the
but
impact in its totality.
in totality, I go Deion. I mean, I go Bo Jackson.
All right.
Bo Jackson.
So now let's take this into basketball then. When we talk about influence, you look at what the Fab Five did as far as the culture, C. Webb, Jalen Rose, all those guys. Do we take that into account?
See, you have to package them though. I can't individualize them guys. So Fab Five, yes, they were influential for the culture, big time. You know what I'm saying?
Big time.
On a college level. You know what I'm saying? So I will put the Fab Five in there, still in the 90s. And if we're gonna talk college, I say to you, Miami University. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Also,
that's actually rare that somebody would bring that one up. Like Miami, they was a big shift. You talk about Michael Irvin, those guys, and how they switched things up and brought culture to the game.
Yeah.
But now let's look at how do you measure between a Michael Jordan, an Allen Iverson, Shaquille O'Neal, and a Kobe Bryant. Those, if you ask me, are your Mount Rushmore 90s, early 2000s game changers.
Yeah.
But who's the one?
Okay. If we sticking strictly to the 90s, the top two, and somebody's gonna disagree with it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all a matter of perspective or a matter of.
But that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
Top two to me. Top two to me would be Iverson and Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Iverson and Jordan.
More so than Shaq in the 90s.
Yeah. But that's where I know it's a little bit controversial for me because I go Iverson over Shaq, knowing what Shaq brought to the table. You know what I'm saying? But I know what Iverson brought to the table.
Gotta look
that
at
was
when
big time influence on the game. So
what
some
Shaq did
people are going to disagree with that.
I think what happens is he gets overlooked a lot. Did you catch me? Okay, you buffered a little bit on my side, but so Shaq, I think what gets overlooked, what Shaq did, a lot of people forget how Shaq made it to the finals in '96. How he was so much of a force in his time. The movies he did, the music he created in the '90s. That how he really influenced culture, how he influenced entertainment, how he influenced business. Me personally, I think it's a tighter race between Jordan and Shaq as far as influence in the 90s goes.
Okay. So to piggyback off of that, it goes back to what I said about Deion and Bo. In this same scenario, we talking on a street level and we talking about in the boardroom level. And Jordan and Shaq had major influence on a cultural level, on the business end of things, and the street end. But I would say Shaq less on the street end per se than even Jordan or Iverson, and Iverson pretty much entirely on touching the people, touching the street level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. More so than the business side.
Yeah, and I went with Iverson over Shaq, contradicting my own point earlier about taking Bo over Prime because I didn't want to take the two business people this time. You know what I'm saying? Because I had 4 examples.
But this is what I had to bring to the point I have to bring to you. With Shaq, I think he balanced both the business side and the street side, being able to touch the people and also touch the business better than anybody. Being able to go into music, doing songs with Big, you know what I'm saying, with B.I.G., doing songs, you know what I'm saying, like creating a whole different wave of artists and basketball players, hoopers, making hoopers want to be rappers and rappers want to be hoopers.
Right, and a lot of excitement down in the Orlando team during that time. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? That was the Lake Show. No offense to the Lakers
yeah.
fans, but that was Showtime in the
And then when
early
he went
90s.
to the Lakers, he brought the Showtime back to the Lakers too in the
Turned them
90s.
really back into Showtime when it was lacking. So yes. But hey, look, okay, so I'll concede to that, and I'll concede to Iverson going second, and I'll go. I still can't put Shaq over MJ, man, because even though MJ won't touching the people per se on a personal note, but MJ was touching the people
He was
more
touching
than
people.
anybody
Right.
ever did.
I do agree with that. And that's like when people bring
Worldwide.
up when people bring up LeBron and Jordan difference as far as how LeBron's more so touching the people, getting out there with the activism and stuff like that, like really ingratiating himself with the people. But in my opinion, that's just a change in time, a shift in how celebrities and well-known people interact and how they have to interact with people more so now than they did in the 80s. Having a social media presence and all of that. Where back in the 80s, you could just be who you are and people gonna flock to you. Now people sitting back like, nah, you need to come to me. You need to bring the content to me.
Right.
So I think Jordan kind of came still from that era of not feeling like I need to really touch the people, but I can still influence the people by just who I am and what I do. I'm just gonna be dope on the court. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing you can do about it. And then I'm gonna throw out these movies, throw out these commercials, throw out some of the dopest shoes that you will find in history of shoes, and you're gonna be that guy.
And those commercials played a part. You know what I'm saying? The commercials played a part. Hip hop was just emerging, and his shoe line was, look, man, early hip hop was Michael Jordan. From the baggy shorts and the earrings and the jewelry, you know what I'm saying? Mike never embraced hip hop himself, but hip hop embraced Mike.
Embraced Mike, yeah.
And his style. And his style and his whole swagger. Yeah. So I mean, he was the coach. He still is the coach.
So right now you're putting Mike at the top.
Mike at the top.
Mike,
Shaq 2.
Shaq. And
Iverson,
then AI?
Kobe. AI over Kobe in the 90s.
In the 90s.
We're talking 90s still.
We're still talking 90s. Now let's shift it into the 2000s.
Yeah.
So Michael Jordan retires early 2000s. Well, comes back and then retires early 2000s. His era kind of fades out, but his impact is still there, right?
His impact is there, but let me make one thing clear.
Ingrained.
Michael Jordan's career ended in 1998. I don't know no other Michael Jordans.
You don't know the wizard Michael Jordan.
That man don't exist. I don't know him. So continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. So 98, Jordan retires. End of the Jordan era, per se.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to 2000s. We got Shaq, big man on campus, doing this thing with the Lakers. 3-peat, of course. Kobe's on the side. 3-peat, of course. One's rapping, movies, all this stuff. One wants to kind of get into that realm,
Right.
Wants to try to touch the culture too. Doesn't quite do it the way that he thought he might have, the way Shaq did, but still, fast forward years later, wins another championship. You know what I'm saying? We look at how we herald him now. Do you think Kobe versus Shaq in that era, who had the biggest influence? Now AI aside.
Yeah, because AI's run by 2003-ish, 3.
Yeah.
It dipped off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just talking AI from his rookie season in 96 and the impact he had on the league in about the next 6 years.
Yeah. So it went to the finals.
The year after that, it dipped off. But
I'm gonna come back to AI. I'm gonna come back to AI. I'm not gonna just skip over AI because we got to talk about how his influence. Because when we talk about Jordan, he retires. His influence is still embedded in the league,
in the DNA of the game. Yeah,
and AI the same. And AI the same. But I just want to battle Kobe and Shaq. So Shaq already battled Jordan in the 90s. Now battling influence in the 2000s.
See, I have to differentiate influence from who was the best player in the league at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I'm not talking about skill set just on the court. I'm just talking about how we make moves off the court and how the people are looking at, how they're making their moves and how the game is shifting or how culture is shifting because these are culture shifters.
Right. And with that being said, you take both of their peaks, and Kobe is nowhere close to Shaq's peak as far as influence.
Wow.
Peak for peak. No, nowhere close in my mind.
Okay.
Nowhere in my mind. Because you got to, even to compare 2000s Shaq after the three-peat is still unfair because that was a Shaq who had been in the league for like 14 years. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. He's old Shaq by this point.
2005 came around. When he came in the league? 90, 91, something like that?
92? I want to say 92.
Was it 92? Okay, I was thinking 91.
I'm thinking 92. But could be 91, 92 season.
Let's say he had at least a decade in the game by the time he had repeated.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, he's a vet at this point.
Vet, man, and that's you at the tail end of your career at that point, even though he went on to play for many years after that. But I mean, for the average player, you do a decade, you coming to an end in basketball. I just don't see it. I don't see it, man. I don't see the influence being as big, man, from the sneakers to whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever outside of the game. I can't even say the style of play was more influential because to me, I didn't ever want to play like Kobe. I wanted to play like Jordan, and so did Kobe. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like,
good point.
I don't know. And this is all, in respect to Kobe, with him being passed away.
Of course. And it's a good point that you brought that up because when you look at somebody who shifted the game, okay, yeah, Kobe had an influence as far as, he had his cultural influence, but now we're getting nitpicky. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at the fine line of things.
Yeah, when you comparing at this level, you got to nitpick, or else we can't.
Yeah, you got to nitpick. And it's crazy that you brought that up as far as how Kobe never created his own necessarily lane. He did what Jordan did. And I think that's why a lot of times he gets left off that conversation of the number one, number two. Yeah, because he's like,
was a carbon
Jordan, Jordan 2B, you know what I'm saying? Or, just the second coming.
It was too close. It was too close to Jordan.
Too close. So I think that's why a lot of times he gets overlooked for that number two conversation with LeBron.
Yeah. Which, like I say, all respect to his legacy, he shouldn't be overlooked, but I think that might play a part in him getting overlooked.
But you know what? I think after his passing, looking at how the younger generation looks at Kobe, now the Black Mamba, the myth of who Kobe Bryant was, or the mystique that I'd say of who Kobe Bryant is. I think going forward, he'll have a bigger impact after his passing. Now with how kids look at who Kobe was, I think he gets heralded more and so now than he did before. And as generations continue to pass on, people will look at Kobe more so in that light of being more influential than Shaq now.
Yeah, I agree with you.
10 years from now, I think we'll see a huge leap over.
Yeah, I believe that. And the eerie thing about it is, I saw an interview with Tracy McGrady said Kobe wanted that. Like back when he was like in his early stages of his career, it might have been like in the first 3 seasons of being in the league, said he wanted to go early. Wow. This is per Tracy McGrady, not nothing I can verify. But I seen the interview. And he said that he told T-Mac he wanted to kill it and then pass away early so he could just be like legendary. And
legendary. And that's exactly where he's. I'm saying, and that's exactly where he's going. Kobe Bryant has exponentially shot up to legendary status. Like he was already a great, but like I said, he wasn't in that 1-2 conversation. He might have been in the 3-4 conversation, really. Maybe even for some people, number 5 or even off the 5. But after that, after his passing, his exponential growth as far as like his influence has shot up. And I think as years pass, you fast forward 10 years from now, he's going to keep shooting up. You know,
and what's unfair about this conversation coming from us is our age range. So because I mean we're closer to Kobe's age, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly younger than Kobe, but closer to his age than someone else. We don't look at Kobe with that same way that maybe the younger generation does per se.
And I
Because
think
in
that's the issue
fairness
with
to
LeBron
him,
too.
yeah, same thing probably with LeBron. We older than LeBron, so we kind of, but I think that in fairness to Kobe, he actually started rising as far as how he's viewed a lot before his death. I started noticing when he was getting close to that retirement run, he started getting his props. People started giving him his flowers while he was still in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. He had his whole
Had to
farewell
tell
tour.
him. Yeah, he had his farewell tour, and he started really getting paid his what everything he was due. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the people who grew up on him, they hold him to the same. They look at him in the same view that we look at Jordan. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I have a hard time looking at Kobe in that light, the same way I look at Jordan, because I did watch both of their careers, and I was younger than both of them, and I watched both of their careers, and I didn't see it from that point of view. But I can understand how somebody who watched Kobe and didn't watch Jordan on nothing but highlights can say, that's the best thing I ever seen.
Right.
Because he would have been technically the best thing you ever saw. You know what I'm saying?
Never saw, like if you would have never saw
never
Jordan.
watched Jordan live. Yeah.
Right.
It's not the same in highlights. So, but yeah. So I agree with you. I think Kobe's he's going somewhere crazy in the future. But as of now, I can't put him over Shaq as far as influence. But this conversation in another 5 years, yeah, he will.
So now let's look. So now look at this. Let's look at this. The small man, I guess, in the game. So we brought up AI, and we talked about AI and his influence. Kind of brushed over him, but I think we got to look at him more so with a microscope. How he changed, in my opinion, the whole look of the league now. You think when he came in the league in what, 96 or 97? 96.
96.
96, yeah. Short haircut, no tattoos, you know what I'm saying? Just a mean game, right? Little man taking over. But then the little man came in with a different kind of audacity that wasn't seen before. Even with the Isaiah Thomas years before, you know what I'm saying? He came in with a different type of audacity to do what he did in the game, and then started shifting fashion, shifting the look, bringing street credibility to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And now you see that more so now than you did before. Do we rate that somewhere as far as influence versus somebody who was just on the business side of the game? And we know AI, he did a few commercials here and there. But in my opinion, limited his marketability by who he was. But he didn't care about that. He was going to be AI. I'm AI. I'm the answer. I got these dope shoes too. I got, you know what I'm saying? I got the moves, the crossovers. I'm showing you all of this fly stuff. And I'm just going to be different. Where do we put that against the business side of looking at the Shaq, movies, music, you know what I'm saying? Ownership here, ownership there, taking over this and taking over that. Do we hold that in high regard? Because if you ask me, Shaq didn't change the game as much as AI changed the game. The look of it, style of play.
Style of play. None of that. Nothing about the actual game itself did Shaq change more than Iverson. And I can only say I've only seen 3 people change the actual game in my lifetime. You know what I'm saying?
Talk about it.
First being Jordan, where he made a 2-guard an actual position people wanted to be. Because before that, the 2-guard was nothing, being a shooting guard. You know what I'm saying? It was a disregarded position for the most part. He changed the style of play for it and made it where it's something. That's why when people talk about the top 5 shooting guards of all time, it always starts with Jordan and somebody after him.
It was great because of Jordan.
Before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He changed that position. So him and the athleticism that Jordan brought to the game, now you're just starting to see athletes, with equal athleticism. But before, nobody
Right.
had no vertical like that. That's why
Yeah.
all his highlights is him just soaring over top of people. Because
Hang
humans
time.
weren't built like that back then. So,
and crazy hang time. Yeah.
and Iverson being the second player who had an influence on it, because that whole street ball feel that you have in the league now started there. Not saying he's the first person with a crossover, but he took the game somewhere
else. He took the game there. He, in my opinion, like even though he wasn't an and one player, he made and one a popular thing because he brought that street ball element.
Thank you. Yes, made people interested in it.
Yeah, you see that street ball, you know what I'm saying, element in the game. Like, oh, let's make this a whole thing. And those and one tapes, that was huge for the culture.
Right.
That was huge for the culture. Even got, you know what I'm saying, Skip to Malu in the league. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you don't get those without Iverson.
And if it wasn't for that, Ray Olsen, maybe he might not have had a career.
Right. I agree. You don't get none of that without Iverson, because there had to be an interest for it in order to sell it. Yeah. That stuff been going on. It's been going on. But it didn't become mainstream until you had an Allen Iverson go mainstream. And Iverson in the year 96, his rookie year, I remember this. That All-Star game rookie year MVP was Iverson, who came into that game showcasing a new set of cornrows and a headband.
Yeah.
I was playing in a rec league during that time. How about the Saturday after the All-Star game, we all came in with headbands. All of us. Everybody. I had a headband. Everybody had a headband. Now, with that being said, when you look at the league, you can tell who's from that age range that they looked up to Iverson, because there's a lot of guys in the league who had not just the tattoos, but still wearing the headband, wearing the arm sleeve. You know what I'm saying?
Sleeve. Yeah. First one to do that.
Dressing the part. Yeah. And that's all him. If you see somebody with sleeves, them compression sleeves on and headbands,
that's AI.
That's AI. And they had to get rid of that. When you started seeing the braids and the tattoos, who opened the door for that? He took a beating for that. He took a beating for it, but people did it, and they changed.
I mean, granted, you had the Dennis Rodman first, but Dennis Rodman made it. As much as I love Dennis Rodman, he made it weird. AI made it the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Nobody wanted piercings and tattoos when Rodman was doing it. That's why he was able to do it for so long, and nobody cared.
He was the only one. Yeah. That was different. But AI came in, he made it a thing. He made it what everybody wanted to do. And now you look 20 years after his, you know what I'm saying, interest into the league, 25 years, everybody looks like an AI. You know, Kyrie Irving's game, that's AI. 25 years later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You look at LeBron James. LeBron James is like 6'8", 240. And he shoot a fadeaway just like Iverson. It looked the same. Same form and everything. What is he fading away for?
Exactly. You over everybody already.
You got the highest vertical almost in the league. You know what I'm saying? And you 6'8" in a train or a truck. All you got to do is just go up over anybody.
And you got a fadeaway jump shot.
Look like got a fadeaway that looks the same form as Iverson. You wanted to. That's who you admired. And ain't nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying that's his DNA. That's what he left on the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the nod to his imprint and what he brought to the table.
He did it in 5 or 6 years.
And in my opinion, more so than Jordan, the game would never be the same because of AI. More so than Jordan, because what Jordan did was Jordan. Everybody was trying to be like Jordan, move like Jordan, but not quite. AI came in and he just brought a different type of, you know what I'm saying, flair to it that people can actually implant and bring it to their game more so than what Jordan can. Because Jordan was just different. You know what I'm saying? Only other person to do Jordan and be like Jordan, not Harold Miner, but Kobe. You know what I'm saying?
It was Kobe. That's it. Truth be told, I'm going to be honest with you. I used to watch basketball games. No, not at all. When I used to watch basketball games as a kid, I would sit there in front of the TV with my basketball in between my legs and just kind of practicing dribbling. And I would watch Jordan games. And Jordan, I was never what you would say a Jordan fan.
Me
Like
neither.
I enjoyed watching him, but I wasn't like he was never my favorite player at any point in the league.
Right.
So, but I knew he was the best watching him. And I would watch Jordan and I would never say in my head, I'm about to go outside during halftime and try that. Because I knew I couldn't do what Jordan
You
did.
couldn't try
I
it.
never even
You might want to
Jordan
try
did.
the hang time, but you know your hang time gonna be limited.
Never
You
tried
ain't
to be
staying up
like
there as
Jordan.
long as Jordan.
Because I knew I couldn't be like Jordan. When Iverson came to the game, and he's a guy that I'm looking at that's relatively in my height range and everything else, you know,
It's
and
like
I'm
I
like,
can do that. I can get the
that's what
cornrows.
I want to be.
I can wear the headband. I can get my handles right. You can do that.
Yeah, I
So
can
now
do
that
that.
so now that brings me to another point. Good segue. Let's take it into 2010s, 2020s. Steph Curry. Where does Steph Curry fit in that?
To me, he's the next the third person on my list that I said have changed the game. To me, Steph Curry. A lot of people might not see that, but in reality, I mean, the whole Splash Brothers thing changed the way that the league has been played. You know, some people would point to other teams in the past and say we had that already, or we had 3-ball shooters, but
Oh, of
nobody
course.
ever
But
turned the league into a
like that.
3-ball shooting league until Steph got hot out in Golden State. And when Golden State blew up with him as the face of Golden State, that's when it took off and the whole game changed. And now we're in a 3-ball league where even big men step out and they feel like they can't do nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Other than shoot
Yeah.
threes.
Yeah.
Like all the players who had been great players in the league prior to Steph taking over and becoming this big household name, they weren't playing that style of play. And then when Steph get hot with it, they start playing that way, which
Force
tells
them to
me
play that way.
he forced the game to be his game. The league became what he did good.
And I would say this. He's the first player, you ask me, to force a shift. You know,
Yeah.
everybody else influenced it and say, okay, we want to add that to the game. We want to try to do this or try to do that. But he's the first person, if you ask me, to force. Maybe if you go back and say maybe like Wilt Chamberlain or somebody like that, Kareem, they kind of forced the game to go more towards bigs and that post game and all that stuff. So not to overlook that. Of course, like you said, we're 80s baby. So we're gonna go with what we know, what we've seen in our time. You know what I'm saying? And if you ask me, outside of the time before us, before, you know what I'm saying, before the game went big with Kareem and Wilt and all those guys, Steph was the first person that we've seen in our time force a shift.
Right.
He forced people to step outside and say, hey, look, we got to take analytics and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Looking at the game differently now and taking those numbers. Hey, we got to put up more threes. Steph putting up all these crazy threes. Okay, he might hit 48% of them and a slower percentage shot, but hey, if I make enough of them, you know what I'm saying? You watch the games and you see them down by 12, you blink an eye, and then they up by 6. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's true. Because even the other names on this list only forced it in small ways. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like your Shaq, he changed it. He forced it just a little bit because of the Hack a Shaq rules. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't change the whole game. Who would you say kind of is the cause of the handshake going away?
Handshake going away? Can't say.
Maybe we can't even put that on somebody. So, I mean, Shaq kind of had that, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, nobody forced it to be different. You know what I'm saying?
Can't force it.
Other than the rules for Shaq and tearing down goals and how you do foul them at the end of the game. You know what I'm saying? So definitely he ranks there.
Of course, rule changes happen because of certain players. But as far as like style of play and how we're drawing up our offenses now, you know, nobody's done that in no sport. If you ask, like in no sport, translate to other sports. You know what I'm saying, you can't look past him on that. But would we say that he had a cultural influence?
Who's that? Steph.
Steph.
Unless you just want to include his help with Under Armour. I don't think so.
Hey, he put that company on his back. If it
Playing
wasn't for
part.
Steph, yeah, if you had,
Well,
hey,
him and what, The Rock. Other than that, I mean, like, what else do they got?
But if you look at how he had influence on the youth, you know, I don't think the youth has had a player that they connected with, like you said, that AI connection when you were young. You know what I'm saying? Versus Jordan when you were young, or how Kobe when you know what I'm saying, other kids were young, more so than Steph has on the youth. Every kid who goes out, hey, I might not be able to dunk. I might not have the greatest handles, but I can put up 100 shots. I can get nice at putting these buckets in there. You know, so I think he still has had a big influence on youth more so than a lot of others.
Than
Looking at
LeBron.
this younger generation now.
It's the same reason that LeBron and Steph's influence is the same comparison
Jordan,
to
AI.
Jordan and AI. Yeah, because you look at LeBron and Jordan and say, I can't do that. But you look at AI and Steph and you say,
I can do that. I
can aim to be like those. Yeah, you can't be them guys. Don't get me
I can try.
When I wanted to be Iverson, I couldn't be Iverson. You know what I'm saying? But they showed you something that felt like you could aim to attain. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It wasn't out of reach.
Which
Seem to be regular people doing it, even though
which
Steph
is something I don't want to overlook. As far true. What, like 6'3"? I mean, to me, that's you up there if you ask me. Yeah. In our regular everyday world, 6'3" is you know what I'm saying? We're looking up.
Yeah, if he walked in a room amongst average height people, like he'd be like, "Who is this tall, lanky guy that just came in here?" Like, but what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh, but I was just saying that. I mean, pretty much going off of what you were saying. It's just that he has more relatability to the youth and your general population than a LeBron. So now where are we weighing as far as influence?
Okay, so let's step outside of basketball. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Is there anybody from any other of the sports worlds that would have that influence today culturally? And let me preface it with this right here. I'm sure there are more people that listen to the podcast other than just here in America. So I'm sure there's going to be somebody that might say like a Ronaldo, because they're football, soccer fans. You know what I'm saying? But that ain't our sport, guys. So no disrespect. So we're not gonna name them. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna name based off of what's popular here in America.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with what we know.
Yeah. So has anybody managed to do it from 2010 to now
in another
sport? Any other sport?
Only person I can say that might have come close. And in our culture, I would meaning Black culture. I'm going to say Cam Newton was the only person I can think of, like right off the top of my head.
Has he though? Yeah, I thought about Cam. I thought about Cam, but I was like, is Cam worth mentioning? You know what I'm saying? Like
he had a small spark in a small time. You know what I'm saying? It didn't last long. Yeah. You know, it was a gradual build to it, but when he hit, it hit. That 2015 season or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, dabbing on everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That whole Migos movement too, when they became like, you know what I'm saying? And he was like really embedded with that, and how he had an impact with the youth. And I mean, wasn't nobody going out trying to be Cam Newton. You know what I'm saying? Right. But as far as like having an impact and having some kind of movement, that's the only person I can think of in the last 11 years between 2010 and now in another sport outside of basketball who had any type of major cultural shifts that were influences.
Trying to think. He's about all that came to mind. You know what I'm saying? So that won't me taking a dump on Cam because Cam's a brother of the Leaf. So, it's all due. It's all love for Cam. You know what I'm saying? He came to my mind too. But in terms of the names I'm putting him next to, I didn't know if that name belonged. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, like you talk about Jordan, 6 chips, GOAT conversation. I mean, Cam, you made it to the Super Bowl, which is a feat in and of itself, but you're not quite in that GOAT conversation. So when like the names we brought up were actually like GOATs.
Kobe,
Deion
Shaq,
Sanders.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Won a chip with Dallas, then goes to San Francisco, wins a chip with them, or vice versa, whichever way it was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a different kind of move, and the way Deion Sanders brought a different type of flair and lasted for a longer period of time than Cam's movement when he came in and he did his thing. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to him and what he did in his time. But I mean, but you put it in the vacuum. You said, hey, over the last 10 years, who? Only person that come to mind is Cam.
Hey man, which is a compliment to him anyway. Which is a compliment to Cam because ultimately,
to be able to put yourself in that conversation even a little bit.
You're the only one we can come up with. We never talked about this.
Yeah, all the players in all the sports.
Both the name you means something. Right? You know.
Yeah. All the sports, all the players, and you're the one name that comes up to say that you were almost there, just didn't crack it.
Yeah, definitely. What about this might be this might not be a good one to say, but what about daggone, man, I'm drawing a blank on my man's name, man. My man that kneeled.
Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, yeah. Would you say
Kaepernick? I mean, huge influence of what he did. I mean, like, he brought a whole movement. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's not the same, but at the same time, it's still an influence.
It's still a huge influence. But he never changed the way the game was played. You know what I'm saying? Nobody went out and said, I'm gonna be Kaepernick. Nobody was in practice doing drop back saying, Cap. You know what I'm saying?
It's strictly off the field, you know, but even then he played his part.
But you had an impact, you had an influence, but only on the social level.
Not enough on the field to really
not enough.
It's gotta be a balance,
not enough. Right? It has to be more like the guys that we talked about might not have been activists. You know what I'm saying? Even though LeBron he's done some activist work. And shout out to him for that. But it's not enough when we talk about totality. You're talking about changing a mass of people, changing a game. Those things he didn't do. So even though you can bring his name up for that reason of the social justice thing, as far as being an influence and a shift, you know what I'm saying? Like he was more so, and like I said, disclaimer, much respect to him, but he was more so polarizing than he was an influence. You know what I'm saying? He created a polarization in the game, which was very, very important. You know what I'm saying? So give him his props, but now I gotta leave him off that conversation if you're talking about over the last 10 years.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree with everything you said on Cap. So what's up with that Liga?
I was about to bring that up. I was saying this whole conversation, we got deep into the games. You know what I'm saying?
We got into everything else. Let's get into the cigars. Let's bring it home.
Get back to the cigars. So back to this number 9. This Liga Privada. Man, just as good as I remember. Just as good as I remember. I probably haven't had one in a couple of years. And like I said, Liga, the T52, the number 9, they were in that gotta have. And as I'm getting to my second, third, just inching into it, I mean, just as good as I remember. Nothing crazy off the top. I was gonna treat it with some with some cedar spills today. You know, I wanted to light it with that, but you know, it's ready to get to the cigar. I wanted to give it its notch that it deserves. You know what I'm saying? That we got, you know what I'm saying, the respect we got to give to our cigars, lighting it the right way sometimes. But easy off the top.
Sometimes that stick is the right way though.
It is. I'm gonna bring the cedar sticks out next time. But right off the top, you know what I'm saying? Smooth from the beginning, creamy smoke, as you guys seen. You watched the video, of course. Creamy smoke, easy burn. You know what I'm saying? A lot of wood notes. good tobacco, man. It's like quality tobacco. Liga Privada's always been one of my top ones. And I think I'm gonna have to add this back to the humidor, you know what I'm saying, at a better rate than I have in the last couple of years.
And I'm gonna be honest with you on this vintage 92.
Talk to me about that Rocky.
I've been smoking and not really taking the moment in, man. I just been running my mouth and smoking as I was going. I kind of miss I've been missing the smoke. But at the
Yeah,
same time, that can be a good thing because I've been enjoying it, but
right,
not
right.
necessarily consciously enjoying it, man.
You know,
Be
it's
honest,
sometimes
Rocky makes a good cigar, man. It's just
yeah,
good. It's a
yeah.
good cigar.
Absolutely. And sometimes that's what you need. You know, whenever you go to the cigar lounge or you're sitting back chilling with your folk or you're by yourself, sometimes you don't want something that's gonna just, you know what I'm saying, punch you around too much. Sometimes you just want something that's gonna be solid in the background. Especially if you're
Yeah.
having a conversation piece. You want to know you had that good go-to cigar that's not gonna just throw you off. And you can continue your conversations, dig deep into whatever it is, your work, or whatever you got going on, and knowing this is a solid cigar. That, hey, look, it's something I can put on and not even worry about.
Right. Yeah, it's solid, guys. You know I don't have the description for you, and that's my apology for it. But it's definitely a solid cigar. I've been enjoying it
Yeah, I
so far.
mean, hey, look, enjoy the cigar. I mean, like, we'll have to put that into the description at some point on the next post. We'll talk about that Rocky Patel, and we'll put people on. You said it's the 92, right?
Yeah, vintage 92. Rocky Patel
All
vintage
right,
92.
all right. That's something we're gonna have to put out there and get into it a little bit more. Give Rocky his props that he needs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. So what else did you have for me today? I know you said you had something else you wanted to get into with us.
Oh man, it was just a sports talk. It was just a sports talk. I was having some crazy conversations over last week about a lot of sports topics, and that's just one of the big ones that came up to me. You know, so we can always dig deep into the sports world. You know, that's something that we've always been a part of and into. So
All right, let me ask you this right here. I don't think we named any baseball players that was only baseball players. You got to give me
okay.
somebody. You got to give me somebody. Let's hear it.
I mean, off the top, Ken Griffey
Yeah.
Jr.
Hey, it's a good one. That's a good one. But didn't Ken play something else for a little bit?
Nah, I only remember him from baseball. I don't ever play anything else.
Uh,
Mariners,
all right.
man. Like
Ken Griffey.
we did skip over a lot of different sports. You know what I'm saying? We didn't bring up Tiger Woods. We didn't bring up the Ken Griffey's, Sammy Sosa's. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, of course, you know, we both got love for basketball, so basketball took the majority of the conversation. But
Does Tiger? That's interesting you bring him up because Tiger is a worldwide figure. But I think he only affected his genre of those who wanted to maybe be like Tiger, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? His demographic, anyway.
think so.
I think so, man. Like, I mean, I enjoyed his video games. You know what I'm saying? When they came out, Tiger Woods golf was great. You know,
Yeah.
but
I mean, but
outside of that, I mean, what was the influence outside of his own
okay.
golfing demographic?
Well, we say outside of demographic, but also look at this. How many people did he bring to the sport?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
More so than have an influence outside of your sport,
He
the
brought
ability
awareness
to
to his
bring
sport.
people to your sport at the rate that he did, and then to make people want to
Yeah.
play like how he played, you know,
Right.
approach the golf course the way he approached it. That's huge.
Okay.
That's huge.
Well, if you want to talk about bringing people to your sport, I can add another person to the list who brought eyes back to a sport that was dying. You could add a Floyd Mayweather Jr. If that's the case. Not that people wanted to be like him or to put him on Tiger Woods' level, but at the same time, they both reached billionaire status, and they both brought eyes to a sport that might not have had eyes to it.
You know what?
Like it did.
And to pause you for a second on that, I'm ashamed of myself that we talked about sports, we talked about influence, and we completely skipped over boxing.
Mike Tyson?
Tyson, Roy Jones, like how, especially me as a fighter, and you loving fighting too. how in the world did we completely skip over the world of boxing? You know what I'm saying? The Muhammad Ali's, the you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because we skipped Ali's time altogether, but Ali, you put
We
Ali
did,
up
but
there
hey,
at the top.
we jumped right into the 80s, which is Mike, man.
Which was Mike. Mike, we should have brought Mike up in the 80s, but Mike was so scary. Nobody wanted to be Mike. Everybody was terrified of watching him on TV. Mike was just like a rabid shark tearing people apart in a ring. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But definitely Mike took the game. He took his sport to a whole new level. Not to say, yeah, a whole new level, because of course, after Ali, it kind of dipped off a little bit. You had your Sugar Ray Leonard who kept it alive, but
But
Mike
you have to
took
look
it
at
somewhere else.
the kind of flair that he brought to the game. Like you wouldn't have Roy Jones with the kind of flair he had if it wasn't for not saying that you wouldn't have had Roy Jones, but I'm talking about the kind of flair he brought to the ring.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you walk into the ring or you had that fight night coming up and people are clamoring to see your fight. Like they were clamoring to see Mike. You know what I'm saying?
It was an event. It was an event.
Mike brought the event back.
Right.
And then he allowed other people to follow in his footsteps as far as bringing the event back. When you had Roy Jones, when Roy Jones stepped into the ring, it was an event. When Mayweather's fights came, it was an event. And some people, you know what I'm saying? You tee up that pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You had your fight parties.
Right. Yeah, it definitely Roy to a lesser extent than Floyd and Mike, but yeah, it was definitely an event for when them guys always entered the ring.
Yeah.
And I tell you, to be fair to the other crowd of fight fans, I would say McGregor brought the event status to his world.
He did. To his world,
yeah. So he played a part as far as being influential and really getting a lot of attention behind, a lot of eyes on his sport.
McGregor or John Jones? Who brought more flair?
McGregor, but John Jones is a much better fighter. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think John Jones is doing the pay-per-view numbers nowhere close to what McGregor was doing. McGregor was breaking all the records and getting the highest gates and the highest paydays.
I think that was more so because of his personality and the way he marketed. I think people teed up to see John Jones fights just based off skill set.
Without a doubt.
Which says a lot to me. I don't have to go out and promote and have all the antics that McGregor has. I just got to show up for my ticket at night. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm on the card. I'm showing up the fight. But people going to tune in to watch.
That's true and all, but I mean, if I say
controversy and all, I mean his controversy did bring a little bit to the table too.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, if I go to 10 strangers on the street and say John Jones, they might not know who I'm talking about, but at least one of them gonna know Conor McGregor if I say him.
Truth. Fact.
You know what I'm saying? He's the bigger name. Like, so he had more of an impact to his game, to his sport during his time. Even Ronda Rousey, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. She had a spark in the time. She had a spark in the time. So let me ask you this though. Conor McGregor, is it over for him?
Yeah, it's over.
So
it's a wrap.
Broken legs and all. Ain't no coming back from it.
He was done before the broken leg. He was done when Khabib did him like that. He was done.
I agree. I agree. I think the days of his box office numbers are over.
Yeah. Matter of fact, he was done. He was done the day he cashed his check from the Mayweather fight. He'd been done ever since then.
That was it. Hey, but in all fairness, after that check, you ain't got to fight no more. That's
what I'm saying. In respect to him, that means he was doing it for the love of the game, but it probably was hard to get up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Hard to get up at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. So, Cigars lit. Didn't get the greatest burn.
Did you ever?
Got a nice, hey, time to time. I aim for it. But I don't have anything bad today. You know what I'm saying? Burn's pretty good. Nice little draw. So, yeah.
All right. Well, did you have any final words before we close out?
Hey, I mean, all I'm gonna say, just stay tuned for me drawing up my top 5 again. my top 5 got to have in the humidor. As we talk about Liga Privada, definitely in the top. Definitely will be in my humidor. Definitely will be in my top 5. I will be going back on the Alec Bradley tour and seeing if I can find some Alec Bradley. I did see. I went to a different humidor today, and I did see one Alec Bradley in there. They had one. They had one. They had one display.
Like literal one type of cigar or one cigar?
One type of, no. It was a box. They had one brand of cigar that was in there. I might pick that up next time. That and also going back to look at my other favorites. I want to try to see if I can find a Rocky 55. That was one of my tops for a very long time. So if I can find that one for the next smoke, I will. If not, we might just go with that Alec Bradley and continue the journey, trying to find out where Alec Bradley stands in those top names, that next tier name. You know what I'm saying? See if it's still in that Rocky class.
So you're gonna obviously we're gonna discuss that on the show, but you're gonna be dropping that information on Instagram also?
I will. We'll find all that information.
Vernon's_cigars. You check us out there and you can get all those updates. And you can watch the video also for the podcast listeners that are checking us out on other platforms. You can watch the video this here if you want to see how bad Denzel's burn is every week.
I'm hanging in there this week, man. I'm hanging in there this week.
Yeah, so tune in for this week's Instagram, for this week's episode on Instagram, and you can see what a good burn for him is. And if you're not impressed with that, then that's about as good as it gets, y'all.
It's about as good as it's gonna get. Hey, low expectations. We be all right.
I'm just teasing, man. But all right, y'all, we appreciate y'all tuning in for today's episode of the Cigars and Everything Else podcast. We'll get with you next week.